Okay, just a little bit to explain my role. So I am the clinical lead of two IAPT services in Berkshire, Berkshire East and Berkshire West, which is a population of nearly 1 million people. And we're a Wave 1 and a Wave 2 site. And we'd heard about Silver Health. Somebody had picked up a card somewhere, and it was that organisation or that company. I was always going to ring and never quite got round to it. And then I was saying, we really need to fix this online stuff, because we were a little bit dissatisfied with the project that we were doing and how it wasn't very flexible. Made a call, and that was really the start of the journey, where we've been working collaboratively with Silver Cloud to contribute our clinical materials onto their platform, so that we are actually fit for helping IAPT services to move forward in online solutions. So it's really exciting, and we launched Silver Cloud in our service, and I can answer questions a little bit later, and hopefully a bit of flavour will come out about that. And as we are all aware, we're really in very difficult financial times, and I have got a senior role within the trust, so it's not just within IAPT, it's looking about how we can do more for less. And I kind of want to make sure I bring in the flavour of IAPT and Silver Cloud, but also think about the wider picture. So the wider picture for us, obviously in the NHS, is being responsible providers and making sure we meet all the standards of monitor, NICE guidance, and also the CQC Commission. And I think we have a public responsibility to spend our money wisely and well. So I think it's really great that we can look at innovative ways of developing that. I mean, within IAPT, we are really fortunate, as you're all aware, to have our minimum data set, to have some clear guidelines, and to have all this rich data to analyse. And I think we're quite unique in that way. So what is really important in healthcare overall, and we can obviously relate that to IAPT, I mean, the most important things are patient safety and clinical outcomes. This is what obviously Monitor, NICE guidance and CQC are interested in. Patient experience, waiting times, and we can take that through to the hospital to obviously what's mandated for IAPT. And right through the middle is obviously quality. So that's really the basic big three for the NHS. But what is it for IAPT? And obviously for IAPT, it is waiting time, and the 28 days wait, which is a huge challenge to lots of areas. And so this is something where I do know that Silver Cloud can help, having an online product. Obviously quality in our recovery rate, and there's a lot of services who really struggle to achieve that 50%. The national average is about 46% at the moment. I'm really pleased that both my services have been above 50% now for quite a while. And also IAPT has introduced reliable change, which I don't know whether you're aware of reliable change, but reliable change is on the PHQ-9 measurement an improvement of 5 points, and on the GAD-7 an improvement of 4 points. And so now we can get data that looks at reliable recovery. So that means they've moved those points as well as got below the PHQ-9, for instance. So quality is identified in recovery. We're one of the first services to be able to demonstrate that. And then we would also expect probably about another 15 to 20% on top of that for reliable change. And I think what is really important for people to understand in commissioning is that involves every referral. So obviously that's even people who drop out. And then improving access rate, which is the big hot topic, is to achieve 15% of the prevalence of anxiety and depression in our communities. And for those services who've done really well, there has also been a quality premium to achieve 18%. And I hear really good news that the government are very interested in hoping that we can achieve to get as near to 50% and 15 on recovery and 15% on access by the end of March, because in the manifesto for the new election, it is very likely that they're going to ask us to go up to 25%. So IAPT is here to stay is good news, and good news for more patients and clients, to get help. But those, I think, are the three things, and I know I find in my experience I'm forever juggling those three. We change the waiting time, the recovery rate slips. We reduce the dose of therapy that we give, and we often find another dimension changes. But apart from those, how do you achieve those? Well, I really would say the most important thing is investing in your staff. And I think, if there are commissioners here, and I don't know whether there are any commissioners here actually, but if there are commissioners here, I think it is really key to invest. And one little tip that you could go back to see if you think you are being invested in well enough as a provider is the range of investment should be between £58 to £65 per person in your prevalence. So that is an interesting little formula to see. And there are services commissioned under any qualified provider, and I don't know where you are, where actually the commissioners have been trying to cut back, and then it's very difficult to provide a quality service. So obviously investing in people means you need to obviously be able to fund and employ good quality staff. But I don't think it's just about spending money. I think it's about spending time with them, empowering them. And I think one of the things that I think has made our services very successful is giving PWPs their own leadership and their own autonomy to run the service and to develop a career pathway within PWPs. Because if we think, the step 3 services or the psychology or the high intensity role is the same, it very much isn't. And I think trying to help and get that mentality for the PWP, I think the PWP is the foundation for the service. So little things like incentives, involving them in running team meetings, making sure they have skills training, good supervision, away days, just actually trying to get this breath of fresh air that I find them to be, which is really, we can do it. And certainly it's the PWP service that's driven us to make progress with our relationship with Silver Cloud. Obviously, the other important thing is having quality processes, because if you haven't got the right pathway, how will you be able to obviously help your patient progress through it? And one of the key things that I think is if the pathway isn't working, gather the data, because you can gather the data and the facts, and then come up with a change. I think the NHS is really poor at changing quickly, but I think within IAPT we have got that option, if we can, to influence clinical leads and influence commissioners and change a pathway if it doesn't work. And I just really put that up as a pathway, not saying this is the right pathway. It's a pathway that we devised to actually make decisions on, were we going to give Silver Cloud, what meant a patient was suitable for Silver Cloud. I think the other thing that makes a really good service is being very lean. And the key things on quality, because I've recently been involved in 2 quality recovery workshops, and I can certainly send you the slides if anybody's really interested on the key factors for having a quality service. It was really about the DNA rates, productivity, case management supervision, being aware of where you had that rich pocket of success in your service, and being very aware where actually there was underperformance and there were patients staying on caseloads and not actually moving through to recovery, and thinking and challenging alternatives for that. So I suppose this really works with the last slide, looking at monitoring. And I think sometimes we can be guilty of putting things in place and then not carrying on monitoring. And I'm forever finding that it seems like, because the service is so busy, you've got your eye on these parameters, and then whilst you're not looking, something else comes in, and you've got to keep on doing that audit. So I think the role of audit and research and understanding and analysing data is really important. I don't know what it's like for you, but when I first started, I can remember the first quarter where we had to submit our data through Omnibus in the old PCT days. That crept up on me, and I think we had a return of 72 patients. And I thought, oh, that was a bit unlucky that we were okay on that. Then the next quarter, I thought, oh, I know about this. I'm going to plan a little bit in advance. And so we looked at it 2 weeks before the deadline. And then I thought, oh, this is really scary. Let's bring it forward to monthly. And now we do it weekly. So we have a whole suite of reports. So all the time we can see if something's slipping so we can make adjustments. So I think using your data really well. And another role that seems to be successful in services is making sure you've got a data lead or somebody who can use that to give you that rich information. Obviously, the key thing about IAPT is quality outcomes and making sure that we do the measures. And I hear that the payment by results, I've been involved in the payment by results pilot. It looks likely it's going to go live next April, and that we are going to lead in IAPT the mental health PBR tariff. So obviously all eyes are going to be a little bit on us. But I think what other services are amazed about is that we do have those clinical outcomes. And that in itself has meant the investment is there, because obviously the ministers for health can see that we actually, we do what it says on the tin, and obviously the link to employment as well. But I don't know what you feel, but I certainly like to know and then make a plan to actually improve outcomes and to challenge obviously clients and patients where they're stuck. And I think helping the team to understand what we're trying to achieve, because we did do a little survey and we were surprised how, if you went through the maturity of the people in the service, they were actually, it took about a year for them really to get what we were expecting and to actually understand the recovery and the outcome, cut-offs, and really understanding it. I mean, obviously on the quality outcomes, the other thing that's really important is actually having the diagnosis, so that you then treat the right problem. Otherwise, you might get that wrong, so that's going to hinder recovery. And the other thing is the disorder-specific measures, so that you are making sure that you're treating, that you're measuring the right thing. And then for us, just sort of putting up really a mixture that we use within our service. And sometimes I know I have to rely on the PWPs because I feel a bit too old for all this technology. But fortunately, there's always somebody who's got that champion role of driving technology. So we use IAPTS, work very closely with our colleagues in IAPTS, and find that's very good and very responsive. Obviously, Silver Cloud, making space for healthy minds, and really developing that. And we also, in our service, have got Sharon, which is self-help and recovery online, which is something that was developed by our eating disorder service. And we use that to support people after they have ended treatment with us. And we've currently got a network of 700 people. It's peer support. So I do think the role of peer support is really important. And it was really interesting last night talking to Colette and Derek, looking at how that could also be developed and how Silver Cloud are looking at that too. And I think this is the way we do need to move forward to do more for less, is to have good peer supporters trained up and also be very flexible to new approaches and thinking differently. Quality experience, obviously there's the shopping experience there, and using your patient experience questionnaires. We have also got a box that says, please let us know how we can improve our service. And we actually do find we get a lot of feedback, and we do actually, I don't know if any of you have come across the Listening in Action set from, I think it's from the King's Fund, but we very regularly publish, you said we did. You said that the waiting room was too cold, let's just say. We have ensured that we've got a new heater. So do that, and we publish that on our website, and we have client forums, and we also do it for our staff. So, you said that senior management felt too remote. We have set up some drop-in sessions, so all the time trying to do that. So, and I think that's really good, thinking through. We've also now got our notice boards really much better informed, so we actually will put through patient stories while people are waiting, and they can see patient stories. This slide was really just wanting to make sure what we found with Silver Cloud, that you heard that. I don't know how the time's going. Am I nearly? Yeah, okay. Thank you. And that's looking at innovation and cost effectiveness. And what are we actually doing? So this is being more specific about IAPT services. So what we found by using Silver Cloud, it's flexible for our service because you don't have to meet people face to face. You don't need your accommodation. Staff can work remotely, and you can support between 4 to 6 clients an hour, depending how you set it up. It's accessible for clients. Clients like it, so they can be on it at work, and there's a button you can quickly just press it and you get it off. We are a service, and I'm surprised as I go around, we are a service that stays open from 8 to 8 every 4 evenings a week, but we still haven't got enough evening appointments. So for us, this is a gold send. I mean, perhaps we've set ourselves up to fail because we've set that expectation. But having set that expectation, I do believe keeping people in work is really important. So having access for clients to do it, obviously, in the evening, early morning, weekends. It increases client choice. And we find it, rather than the discs that, the Fear Flighters and the licenses that we used to use, we find that actually this is just so interactive, and the fact that they can also access it remotely. And it's also the fact that you can see whether clients have gone. So actually you can see if they've been having an active week. You can comment back about it. You can look at their activity on the programme, whereas obviously when you give them something else, you just have to rely on what they report. So if you can't make contact with a client, that's also another thing. You can actually reduce your DNA rate, which is important. We are certainly finding it supporting our workforce shortages. I don't know how it is up here, but we can't get enough Band 5 PWPs. And although I did drag them a little bit kicking and screaming, some of them into the Silver Cloud Online arena, they are just saying to me, thank goodness you did that, because we are having to find extra hours which we're meeting through Silver Cloud. So that's really good. It's interactive. Those of you who've seen it, it's really got the latest. I feel proud to be using it. It's up there with anything else that you might use in your social life online. Obviously, the content's adapted for IAPT services, and we've contributed heavily into those materials, and it's something we were using with good results. So we are now transferring that to good online results. Ease of setup and support to get it started. Obviously reducing clinical time to support clients, and what we are developing coming soon is a much more tailored programme, so that actually you can pick and choose various aspects depending on their presentation. So if they've got social anxiety, if they happen to have a lot of worry, sleep problems, we had this on paper and we used to call it our pick and mix programme, but it's basically a flexible module programme where you can actually tailor make it if somebody's got a presentation with something else. So that's going to be really exciting, and that's going to be launched by the end of the year. And just really in summary, I think the other thing is how do you cope when there's the financial pressures? I think it's like relationships. You need to build resilience for the tough times, having teams connecting, teams that work together, teams that feel safe, and obviously having, wherever you can, that consistency, because I do believe if you can keep your workforce or a core of your workforce, whilst obviously I realise a lot of the workforce will change in IAPT, I think keeping that central team and building resilience and taking on board the challenges and treating obviously people fairly and with respect. Obviously having a good knowledge, trained staff, put supervision in. I think it's so important, particularly case management, and that's another thing on recovery. If you haven't got case management for your high intensity, I would really recommend that you put it in, because that really highlights where people are perhaps not moving clients through. Invest in staff, fun times, team picnics, whatever it is that you can do to get them connected. Having gone to this recovery workshop in London, one of the other key factors that was highlighting how to have a good service, it was actually about having people's personal profile on their own productivity and performance, and then sharing that across the team. Sounds quite competitive, but interestingly, people who did it were actually taking accountability and were feeling empowered. and that people were perhaps celebrating their own success. Where it was hidden and concealed and a less open service, it tended to be not striving towards excellence. Obviously having excellent data, but not just having it, but using it, analysing it, finding out, running your own reports, finding out, and really just having that very inquisitive, researching mind. Innovation, new ways of delivery. And if you talk to my team, they will say, "Oh, Judith's going to have another idea again." But I do think it's the thing that keeps us vibrant, is just trying to think about new ways, and finding what works best for us as a service. Because that's the other thing. Having visited lots of services, each service has got its unique flavour, its unique best selling point. And I think probably ours would be innovation and use of the PWP team, so that really blends itself well to working with Silver Cloud. Obviously reducing waste, and that's not just clinical waste and DNAs. I mean, we've just changed in our trust our paper to a thinner paper, and it saved some fantastic amount of money. We also now try to email people, just thinking through, I'm sure you're all doing that sort of thing, but how can we cut down on waste around us? I'm not saying this is what I really do, but sometimes I feel like a mother forever turning the lights off, and stuff like that. But just thinking about reducing waste. Customer focus, making sure everything you do, you run it by your client base. So in our client forums, we've shown them Silver Cloud, we've got them to become our first guinea pigs. We've had feedback from them. We've talked to them about how we can bring it into our pathway. And then I think is aim high, plan to get it right first time, but if you don't, brush yourself down and change it quickly and move on. And just making sure that you've got quality through and through your service. And I find that having that quality, having the data, having good relationships with your commissioner is how you can keep a sustainable service alive and moving forward in the difficult times that we face. Yeah.
Hi. I was just wondering, is there any particular age groups who you found more responsive to Silver Cloud?
Yeah. I mean, we tend to find, although we have got people, we seem to find we're really pleased because men are adopting it more, and looking at how we can perhaps just advertise that so they don't have to come through all the paraphernalia, taking a risk perhaps on more. We do quite a lot of self-referral. On the whole, it tends to be, I mean, there is a young section of Silver Cloud that you can use. It tends to be around about 19 to 35, with some people from 35 to 50. But Derek has done some research on it. Are you mentioning it later, the age range? But that probably fits what you're finding, sort of 20s and 30s. But actually, there's people up to 50, sounds all old, but, not so many over that. But that doesn't mean to say that they won't use
that's
it.
Changing. That demographic is changing.
Yeah.
Because of the adoption by older people of technology.
Yeah.
It's changing rapidly.
Yeah, and I don't know the latest, but I just know predominantly it's the younger group, but it's not exclusive, because I kind of think, well, I'm doing it, we're all doing it. So and the third age is something that is I think people are doing a lot of self-help once they retire. Yeah.
I think that's our findings locally. The age demographic that we're looking at is a lot of older adults. Seems to be more responsive to online things than was previously thought.
Yeah, and we've also, we've got some very remote villages, I'm sure you have here, and we're finding that we can't go out to them, and so actually spending more time to guide them on the phone with the product is one way of sort of, working with them. Because if it's that or nothing, then they're going to go for it. So that would be interesting to watch, I think, as the Silver Cloud, as the online CBT gets adopted. But I'll certainly go back and run. So now you've made me think I need to know that a bit more. I'll go back and run it, because it might be, are we selling it correctly? Are we marketing it correctly in the service? And that was one thing that we were really, and I've noticed if the PWPs buy into it, they sell it. If they don't, it's, well, you can have this other thing, you know, and so actually writing scripts and getting them inspired and spending some time kind of role modelling different ways to approach it with the client is really quite good. Yeah. Right.
In terms of the resource that it takes up in your PWP in terms of time compared to one-to-one,
Yeah.
how does that compare?
Okay, well, I think it's an interesting thing because you can kind of plug Silver Cloud in your pathway wherever you choose. And so it's a bit like how you run your PWP service, which could be something, you know, how do you make that decision? I mean, and we've got quite a slick process on how we would run our service. And we actually only see our clients face-to-face once and then do everything on the phone. So we have translated this to see them face-to-face and then offer them Silver Cloud. But we've also cut out the face-to-face and we are putting them straight onto Silver Cloud if it's something that is very easy to agree with them and doesn't need any negotiation. So that in itself is cutting out a lot of time. And then we have set appointments for them to follow them up. But actually it's a set day. It's not like having to say 6 o'clock, you know, you're going to be, because you don't have to be online. So they know that they're going to check in and they're going to have support that day. So basically they've left you a message and you leave them a message. So that's really good if you've got sickness or DNAs. And then we can look at how we could necessarily transfer them to somebody else to support them. But we're allowing 15 minutes for each patient, each client to have support, which depending on how you would work your PWP service, and you know, and there are some instances it can only take 10 minutes, but we're trying to be kind of generous to make sure that we don't dilute what we believe is a good quality standard. So our current recovery rate is about 67% on Silver Cloud, and the use of it is growing. I don't know whether that answered your question.
I suppose it gives me a kind of a bit of an idea. How many of those kind of 10 or 15 minute contacts would there be in an episode of treatment?
Okay, well the average we would normally do is 6.
Okay.
But with this we can keep them on for 8. It's an 8-week programme. By the time we've done it, so we would always do a triage, then we would do what we call a treatment planning, which is on the phone or face to face, and then 6 sort of sessions afterwards. But we would probably eke those out a little bit. But the good thing is they've then got the product for a year, so that is really, really good. And there is this group of patients who it seems to just meet that niche market, to meet that need. I mean, we have also tried it because our commissioners were really keen that we met our 28-day wait. And they were putting us, I mean, we were at about 6 weeks. It wasn't that we'd gone off by months, but they're really, really hot on our service in meeting the 28 days. So we decided we'd set it up as a waiting list management. So that was a really useful component. And we were, step 3 people were putting them on their caseload. But what we were finding was they were finding it hard to use Silver Cloud because obviously it was new, they hadn't quite got up to speed like our PWP service has. So now we've got our PWP service who support them while they're waiting for step 3. And that's proven helpful. And I was just saying to Kieran, that we actually also found there was a small group when we got to offering them step 3, they'd actually recovered. The idea really using it as an early intervention. And there are some services who give everybody a step 2 intervention right at the beginning. I mean, we don't actually do that. But on the other hand, you know, my view is giving them that rather than something is at least a psychoed, you know, understanding model, supporting them and helping them to recover, and sort of, you know, the fact that they've then actually got it. So we have found at the moment the predominance for us is to keep it with the step 2 service. Yeah.
Can I just ask, I'm really interested in kind of the severity clusters.
Yeah.
What happens to people as they come through IAPT services in terms of their initial scores on the PHP?
Yeah.
And that stuff.
Yeah.
Have you found any kind of pattern in terms of who is best served
Yes,
by
yes.
service?
We tend to find it in the lower scores up to 18, somewhere round about that. An ideal client, yeah, PHQ 9, GAD 7. I mean, it seems to be 15 to 18 range and below. So that's one way of sort of guiding. But having said that, we've had people higher who've come down to that level, and then it has meant that they've shortened the time. So one thing we're monitoring is the number of sessions our high intensity give to see whether actually this group of clients will be actually needing less therapy, because then if they need less at the step 3, it's obviously introducing that pathway, taking that bit of the pathway away from step 3, which gives us more sessions to give to other people.
We've had Silver Cloud while they've been waiting.
Yeah. And that bit we still need to do more analysis on. The analysis on our pure step 2 it was saving us about 300 hours a month. It's now gone up to about 450 hours a month. Most of our PWPs have got at least 10 to 15 clients on it. Some are almost developing a pure Silver Cloud platform of clients. Yeah. Okay.
So can I just ask, because I got asked this question before, that's 10 to 15 clients out of how many? Like how many would they have?
Okay, well every service is very different. And I think one of the key things how we would work is to say we would expect them to have at least 20 to 23 client-facing hours.
Yeah.
But because they would see people in groups or online, we expect them to have a caseload of 50 in our service. And some of that will be group work, some will be online, so they have a mixture. But other services will have different models. That's just how we do it. And we have done various things, but we moved to the model that now seems to work, which is a triage. And then everybody has a treatment plan, whether they're on the step 2 or step 3, which is a bit like another assessment. Check that they're on the right thing, check their scores, do the full assessment, perhaps do the safeguarding history or whatever else we need to do, and then put them into treatment. And PWPs would keep them unless they have a difficulty hearing or a special disability of some sort. Then we would actually do everything on the phone. But now we're looking at doing it online. And when we first started with Silver Cloud, we were still keeping the phone as a key. They found it hard to let go. But we've just done a Survey Monkey of the staff, and there's quite a few surprise comments. Oh, it's better than I thought. They don't seem to always need the phone call. So we've got an arrangement with the clients on Silver Cloud that if they DNA, we will phone them.
And for the triage, you mentioned the importance of getting the diagnosis right as
Yeah.
well. Would you normally do that at that kind of
We
triage?
we would do a provisional diagnosis. Yeah.
Is there any kind of is there anything that Silver Cloud provides to kind of assist?
No, but we do obviously on IAPT that you've got the clustering tool. So using that, we've got a template to help work it out. That we'd expect them to use supervision, make a provisional diagnosis. If in doubt, check when you next see them. But obviously the disorder specifics, OCD, but that's where the new tailored programs will help, where you've got a mild, perhaps specific disorder like OCD or social anxiety, which could be treated really successfully by step 2. That's going to come in the phase 2 package that we're just developing with Silver Cloud. But obviously, if it's a very disorder-specific PTSD, it's got to be at step 3. Yeah.
Just further.
Yeah.
I'm assuming from what you were saying, you don't put everybody into step 2, you put some people straight into step 3.
Yeah.
So you have a single gateway.
We do.
Come into the service.
We do.
PWPs doing all of the triage.
It is.
And then they're generally speaking, making good decisions.
Yes, we spend a lot of time training those decisions, and we also have a supervision team who will check referrals coming in with our secondary care service, and if there's a history, then they go through that before they go through triage. But I would say that's something that they've now very good at making those decisions. But it's something that you need the experience to do that, and we do obviously support it and review it. And obviously there is that skill, isn't there, to being person-centred whilst you're still going through a barrage of questions on the phone. It's quite a skill. Yeah. But what we found is, because we have used high intensity. We have done different things, but we tend to find they can't do it in the time. They want to go into everything, and that's obviously what we would do in the face-to-face treatment planning session. So we're really trying to make a decision and our triage on severity, and then if it's a PWP, give them time to offer the choice of what therapy would suit them, and then fix the next appointment. The other thing that we've done, which I think is making us really efficient, it took us a long while, and Chris will smile, we eventually got around to using the IAPT calendar. So actually having sufficient slots for all our triage and all our treatment planning uploaded in the calendar, and making sure that when they do the triage, we have a seamless service. They'll book them in for the next appointment within 4 weeks, which we've just managed to succeed at, which is quite a relief to get that flow going.